You set me up, my friend.
Johnny, it's not my fault. There's been a screw-up.
You're dead. You don't get that batch of zombie takeout out of my head. What's up? Welcome to episode 326 of Zombie Takeout.
Zombie Takeout.
The B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, a little bit of business from last week. I was really sleep deprived when we were recording last week. And so there were a couple of your arguments that I could have countered, but it didn't occur to me at the time. But before
we have more Resident Evil.
Before we get to that, I did look into the whole Angela Alicia thing.
Yeah.
And you were right to be confused. They retconned it.
That's what I thought.
They said into that the T-virus was developed for Angela because she had a condition, the same condition her father had. And then, of course, in the last one, she said it was developed for Alicia. The only thing they didn't retcon is they never said that the Red Queen was based on Angela. But
yeah.
Everything else, the whole, developed, the T-virus being developed for her, completely contradicted in the last movie. So you are absolutely right to be confused.
It was kind of assumed, though, because, I mean, he was kind of the programmer, it was his system.
Okay, I vaguely remember the second one. These movies don't really stick in my head very much.
Nor should they. But, I mean, what
my
tip-off was when they started calling her Alice in the beginning, I'm like, that's weird. Like, that's something, how would we not have noticed?
Yeah. No, there was no
Alice
Alicia before
and Alicia
this.
Were what would be one and the same.
Yeah, they slipped that in the last one. To your point about the tank speed, it was much faster when she was being pulled behind.
Yeah.
Because they weren't trying to kill her. They were trying to intimidate, or he, Ian Glenn's character, I'm blanking on the character, Isaacs. He was trying to intimidate her into joining him, into being a minion, basically. So he's basically showing, yes, I can kill you if I want to. So they weren't...
Okay.
And it was slow beyond that because it's a tank. What do they need to move fast for? They don't need to waste the fuel because the zombies can't get in anyway. And to your point about closing the hive, contradicting the Red Queen's programming because she's killing people, it was a simple good of the many thing. She kills, the people in the hive to keep the virus in to save the rest of the world and to cover Umbrella's ass. Or she lets it out and everybody dies, including the people who are in the hive. It's just simple math. It's good of the many.
Yeah, but, I mean, she could have used that same logic in this movie where she, was, well, I can't hurt them now because they're members of Umbrella.
Oh, yeah.
And she could have saved many lives that way, but now all of a sudden the stipulation of not being able to harm an Umbrella employee was suddenly this threshold she could not
needed
cross.
To use Alice for, right?
Right.
I'm not defending the logic in the last movie. I'm just saying that there was a logic to that choice in the first movie.
And still, any talk about a single vial breaking open and
I'm not going to defend that. I'm not going to defend that at all.
The craziest thing we've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah. The single vial of the antidote spread airborne, covering the whole world. I'm not going to defend that.
And then even saying, if the vial breaks down here, it's never going to get up there.
Right,
wait,
no. And on to some listeners submitted. This is from Bodo on Twitter. He said, they need to make a Sharknado in space. And have they gotten Richard Dreyfuss in one of those yet?
I think this one's going to be in space.
Well, they say they're traveling all over the world with the sun inside of the Sharknado. They didn't say anything about space, but they did go to space, of course, at the end of 3. Please see 3. See 2 and 3. I think you can skip 1 and kind of get the gist at the beginning of 2.
Yeah.
See 2 and 3. The end of 3 is worth it for the entire series. It makes everything. It just makes the entire series. They go to space. It gets completely batshit insane. And I would say just watch those 2 because 4 is skippable and we haven't seen 5 yet.
We'll see. We'll see what they do.
Mm-hmm. And as far as Richard Dreyfuss, I looked into this. He hasn't been in any of them. And Anthony Ferrante, the director, apparently mentioned it to him once, or had heard that somebody mentioned Sharknado to him, because he was in Piranha, and, I think the Piranha remake as well in the very beginning, and he'd never heard of Sharknado.
Oh.
So obviously he has no plans of being in one.
I mean, how great would it have been if they could have gotten Dreyfuss and...
Scheider's no longer with us, and I was
trying to remember if Scheider was with us when these started. I think he was.
Possibly, yeah. Who was the third one in Jaws? I'm blanking on his name, the actor's name.
Oh, Robert Shaw.
He's gone. He's long gone.
Yeah, he is long deceased.
And Scheider's no longer with us, but, it would be good to have Dreyfuss, and it would be kind of a nod to Piranha, because that's why he was in Piranha.
Yeah.
Anyway, without further ado, on to this week's movie, which is from 1995, Johnny Mnemonic. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Corpocracy. Wasn't it nice when it was just science fiction?
And also brought to you by Keanu Reeves. Has he had a paternity test? Because I think William Shatner may be his real father.
I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know who I was impersonating there.
Spock.
Maybe they can get him for the new Star Trek. He could be Kirk's father or something.
I don't know. Well, yeah, if they're doing the prequel.
Yeah. Because then he's a bit older than Kirk was in the original, of course. Although he doesn't look it. He's pretty much a vampire.
Yeah, very strange. All right. So we have the very, very distant future. Is it now? Or is it... For some reason, I think I've seen places where it's actually 21.
I don't know about this short story. The movie says 2021 at the very beginning.
Okay. So I wasn't crazy thinking. I don't know where I'd seen 2021 before.
It says it right at the very beginning of the movie.
The confusing thing is when they talk about the second decade of the 21st century, but that's when the shit goes down, which I now think about. Yeah,
Aren't we in the second decade of the 21st century?
Well, right. And
almost over, actually.
I think about the shit going down right now.
And, different kinds of shit. Yeah.
Is it that far off from what he's talking about?
Well, fair point, yeah. Corpocracy and all that, yeah.
So, right. They're in the distant future of 2021, 4 years from now, where some shit went down. Well, I guess what I'm gathering from here, because they don't come out and say what's going on exactly.
The movie is a tad confusing.
And that's kind of a good thing, because, I hate it when they explain everything in an unnatural way to you. Right. But from what I'm gathering, that New York City is completely taken over by corporations and the wealthy and stuff. I kind
of got the impression that most of the world was.
There's areas, like shit, of course, goes down. Where else? Jersey.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the jokes I had here is, man, Delaware has gone to shit. But of course, that's Newark, not New York.
Right. They're in Newark, Jersey.
They're in beautiful Newark. Although, where is that bridge supposed to be? I mean, I imagine it's supposed to be one of the entry bridges into New York. I don't know if it was supposed to be the GWB. I mean, idea. It didn't look like it. It was some weird hybrid of the GWB and the Brooklyn Bridge, which I don't know. I was kind of confused by that. I wasn't sure where that was supposed to be.
I didn't get the impression that they did a lot of location scouting, and not location scouting, but like location accuracy.
Well, yeah, they just did Montreal and Toronto standing in for Berlin and Newark. So, from my gathering, the wealthy are in New York, and everybody else is kind of in Jersey.
Which, kind of makes sense.
So anyway, Johnny here is a courier. He stuffs things inside of himself.
Well, let's clarify that.
Oh, what? How could that be ambiguous?
He's a courier for information, but his means of carrying them is in his head.
His head!
He has an implant that gives him, I think it's 80 gigs of storage normally, that he can up to 160 with a doubler. And that gets to the whole premise of the beginning of the movie.
Right. So he upgrades so he can handle more, but they have even twice the amount.
360 gigs crammed into the space of 160. Though 320 is crammed into 160. I don't know how that actually works. What's the overflow? Is brain?
Right. I think that's the thing. Yeah.
Possibly. That makes sense, actually. It would be.
Brain as the overflow. And, of course, it goes to shit from the beginning. There's some shitty technology in 2021 that I'm not sure why they would use other than dramatic license.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime someone asks for a fax when I'm at work, holy fuck, I'm like, I am ignoring that, and I'm sending it to you by email, asshole.
Yeah, there were a few things in this movie that kind of spoke to when it was made more so than when it's set. Ice-T has this line where he says, "Get your VCRs ready."
Right. They're using the mini discs, which actually just came out. I think it was just like a Sony thing that had just come out. But I think they were thinking that people are going to be using these mini discs for the next 20, 30 years.
This was 95. I went to audio engineering school in 99, and they were already phased out. We used them because that was what was around, but they were on their way out at that point.
The mini CDs, they were like a novelty in like the mid-90s.
Oh, yeah. They were nothing but a novelty.
I remember when I was selling electronics back in like the mid to late 90s, and we're like, oh, look at that. It's a whole CD, but it's like half the size. Isn't that cute?
One of them got stuck in my old computer once. Pissed me off.
Right. Like,
couldn't use a CD drawer for months.
Who can use this thing? What can you actually play it on? Nothing.
Yeah.
But anyway, we digress here because, well, the deal goes to shit. He picks up a wannabe bodyguard badass who supposedly had implants of some sort, but
not those kind.
Oh, are those real?
Yes.
But anyway,
see Star Trek Troopers.
Yeah. Anyway, but other than making her faster, they really didn't do much for her.
No.
It didn't seem like something worth doing.
No.
So she assists him. The people that are supposedly low tech, I said supposedly twice in this. Now I've said it 3 times. The low techs,
actually called the low techs,
for some reason are hackers. Like, I don't think you know how this works, sir.
Well, because they're using older, kind of hobbled together technology.
I guess so, and I guess that's why they're using VHS still.
Possibly, yeah. I kind of get the impression that was just a line from, maybe the original story. Maybe Gibson thought we'd still be using VCRs at that point. Because in 95, DVDs were already a thing.
Right. And I mean, why wouldn't you think that video would go to like the same type of disc that, audio has gone to?
Right.
We weren't using cassettes then. So, right, it goes to shit. They're on the run. He has to get the memory out of his brain. The low-tech people, I don't know, do we talk about it now or do we talk about it during the review?
Let's get to it in the review proper.
Yeah, okay. They have an interesting companion to help him get the memories out. Holy fuck.
And shit gets even weirder toward the end.
So that hilarity ensues.
Now, I saw this one in the theater in 95 when it first came out.
Really?
Fucking loved it so much that I went immediately after the movie to the mall, which was like just across from the theater, to get a t-shirt. I still have it. It says Hack Your Own Brain, and it's got that, hilarious, 90s inside a computer interface. So I loved this movie when I first saw it. I still like it, I'll be honest. And I think it's very relevant today, particularly the whole corporate thing.
It is. And I mean, I was entertained for probably the first 2/3 of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last act.
The last act is where it got really fun for me, because it just got completely insane. Like, they dropped all logic.
Yeah, and normally I like... I you know what? That's not the part that I object to.
Okay.
The last act, actually. But I guess we could go for the beginning here.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And Keanu didn't even bother me in this one, because his usual sort of dull, flat performance fits the character.
His acting is just so hideous in this, though.
But it fits a guy who has, his brain carved apart.
Keanu has had his brain carved apart. We figured it out.
But, and that makes sense for the character. And I really like that it isn't ridiculously high tech. I mean, they've got the implants and a few other things. I particularly liked the laser wire weapon. Very clever.
I think I've seen that in other movies.
I probably have too. But they didn't have flying cars and, everything talking to you. And it wasn't, the Johnny Cab and all that shit. They didn't go too far with it, which I think is more a credit to Gibson than the director. Because Gibson always sort of keeps things interestingly low-tech in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Although I have to ding them for that ridiculously John Woo scene in the beginning, when the shit hits the fan after he gets the data, and it actually goes slow-mo.
Yeah.
For some kung fu.
At least they didn't abuse that, which I always thought was the problem with John Woo. True. Was like, I mean, there's other settings on the camera, dude. There's other speeds you can use. If you're watching an entire movie in slow motion, you're gonna fall asleep.
They just did it for the one scene.
Yeah.
But overall, I think this movie feels like a 90s syndicated TV show. Like, we were talking about Tech War before the show. Mutant X is one I liked. Andromeda, we've talked about before. It has that feel to it.
The weird thing about this, though, is that there are movies that came before it that also bombed miserably, like Freejack and Lawnmower Man. Hackers. When they were getting it. Hackers. I forgot about that one.
Though I have a special place in my heart for Hackers. I've always liked it.
Did Hackers do the virtual thing, though?
Not really. A little bit. They did the virtual interface a little bit, but it wasn't the bulk of the movie.
And I mean, like Freejack, that's when I remember going to the movie theater to see and being like, we kind of thought more of it was going to be about the virtual world. Like it took, like 3/4 of that movie till you finally get to like a virtual world at the end. I wound up having to see that movie twice in the theater too, because I saw it with my buddies, because, we were like Hopkins.
Because you didn't know better.
And then I had to see it with my girlfriend. Oh, I wanted to see it. So I was like, all right, I'll go see it. It was kind of like...
why I watched the second Mummy movie.
Yeah.
And I have to say, while I didn't mind most of Keanu's performance, the comedic action catchphrases really don't work for him.
No, they do not. They're so forced.
Yeah. And speaking of flat performances, and 23-year-old me would hate me for saying this, but Rollins was bad in this movie.
I don't think he was in it long enough to be good or bad. I mean, I don't think he was given
He was flat for most of it, and then he has this rant toward the end where he goes into your typical Rollins screaming thing.
Right.
Which is what everybody paid for.
All right, they had to give him at least one thing, but he was, the mild-mannered doctor.
So, he didn't quite fit.
Yeah, it was kind of weird that they had him in it, but, I mean...
It was Rollins in 95.
Yeah.
And Ice-T is the other cameo. One of my... Or not really cameo. Guest star, I guess you could say.
Well, right. I mean, because he had...
Ice-T particularly, because he has a very big part.
He had a bigger part than Rollins did.
And say what you will about Ice-T always playing the same guy. I buy it every time.
I would say this is better than Ricochet.
Yeah. Everything's better than Ricochet. He is always the same guy, but I believe him in every performance.
He is. He's the same fucking guy. He's just the guy in Law and Order SVU. Only he's got like the hair and some makeup here.
Right, yeah.
Because everything's told in this way. Just like it is.
See, he was the same in Tank Girl and Ricochet and everything else I've seen him in. But I totally believe him.
Makeup in Tank Girl.
Just about, yeah. Just he was missing the snout.
Yeah.
And yes, a lot of this movie is style over substance. I will grant that. But it is so 90s cyberpunk, and I am so nostalgic for 90s cyberpunk that I just had a blast with it.
I mean,
it is adorably quaint at points. I will give you that.
The effects are really laughable.
Yeah.
I mean, the virtual part at the end was just, I mean, the Money for Nothing video for Dire Straits was 10 years, more than 10 years before this, and it is of the same quality.
It's just gloriously bad and so emblematic of the 90s.
And what I was trying to bring up with Freejack and Lawnmower Man, the fact that they would go back to that well again, even after the two of them were just heinous bombs.
Mm-hmm.
And Freejack, from what I remember, had better special effects than this, and it was probably a larger budget.
I should point out that this is Robert Longo's only movie, the director.
Oh yeah.
He didn't do anything else after this, not directing-wise anyway. And Christopher Lambert was considered for... Actually, I apologize. Christopher Lambert was considered for the lead role. Would have made the movie so much better.
I think it would have. Well, I mean, yeah, it would have. I don't know if Keanu really took that much away from it in the first place, though.
Well, no. Christopher Lambert would have been more fun to watch.
Exactly. I think... just adding that extra element would have put this over. Would it have sold any more tickets? I don't think so. I think it was just doomed from the start because
probably
all of those other virtual movies were doomed from the start too.
I have to say, I did like the VR scene. It was actually pretty realistic to what we have now.
You know, I've yet to try these newer ones. I tried one back in the 90s.
I have the Google Cardboard, which is like the $20 one.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's fun. Obviously the more expensive ones are better. But I've seen not only people, using them from the perspective of the person wearing them, but I've seen video of the person in the room, gesturing just, because it's fun to watch. And it was very similar to what Keanu was doing in this movie. Though I do have to nitpick it. My only nitpick for the movie, because this is not the kind of movie you nitpick.
Okay.
At one point, he asks for Thompson iPhones, and not the iPhone that I'm looking at on my desk here.
I put that in my notes. It's like, did he say Thompson iPhones?
But it's not the iPhone, the Apple. It was the visor he was wearing. EYE phones.
Oh.
Except phones means sound. Telephone, sound over a distance. Headphones, sound that you wear on your head. Phone means sound. So they wouldn't be iPhones. It just didn't make sense. And I honestly don't know if that's Longo or Gibson.
Well, any idea why going online virtually would be so painful? Because Keanu makes it look like he's really struggling there.
Yeah, I guess the idea was that you're jacking into the net, and it's going straight into your brain. Though he was just wearing a VR headset.
Right, he would need to wear the headset then.
Which can be a little overwhelming for some people. But it wouldn't be like that. That was just dramatic.
And then the bullshit, like, pyramids and puzzles and whatnot to,
the interface, something. Again, adorably quaint.
Oh, boy.
Did you notice the public phones?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, we were still going to have public phones in 2021.
Well, I look forward to seeing that, because, I mean... where else would Superman change into his outfit?
And the scene with Rollins and Keanu, it would have played better if they were passing a joint. Because they both had this kind of mellow, monotone kind of speech.
This is kind of a bridge too far of bad movies if you think about it with,
Rollins and Ice-T.
Rollins, Ice-T, and Keanu.
Yeah. Well, Rollins has done some... Well, not Rollins. Ice-T's done some good stuff. He's just kind of always the same guy. It's the only real criticism.
Body count, I mean.
Oh, yeah. I mean, acting-wise.
Oh, acting-wise.
Musically, He's done great stuff, of course. But, he's done some decent movies. Rollins, he did that one we reviewed last year that was okay.
Yeah.
And he did that one with the Getaway, I think it was. There were two movies that had the same storyline. The one with Sheen. He was the cop.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was good. But yeah, Rollins, not a great actor. None of them. Well, I think in that sense, it's the bridge too far in that, you have that triumvirate of iffy acting. Because Keanu's even good occasionally.
Well, and I think, like I said, I just don't think they gave him enough to work with here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course, we're not addressing one other actor that was in this.
Yeah.
Mr. Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, okay. I was gonna refer to the other leg in the bad acting quartet. But Lundgren, we'll get to Lundgren first. A very small role as this religion-obsessed killer. Really fun role for him.
I think he did really. I think this has been used before too. I'm trying to remember like where I've seen like I think they were kind of channeling like a Pulp Fiction,
right.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Say the word, yada yada, yeah.
Yeah.
Incidentally, this was his last theatrically released film until 2010's The Expendables.
Which
15 years without a theatrically released film. Lots of straight-to-video stuff, maybe?
Yeah. And I don't understand why that is. I mean, you think if you're a director, you can use him for something, you know? And you think with all the superhero movies that we've had over
he'd be great as Thor.
that you put him in something as like...
Well, maybe not Thor, but as an Asgardian, yeah. Put him in some armor like that, yeah.
Right.
Now, I have to address, again, the fourth in the bad acting quartet.
All right.
Dina Meyer. As the wannabe bodyguard. Yeah, I've seen her in a few things, and she's never that interesting beyond the visual.
Well, I think one of the problems here, from what I understand, Gibson gave her a lot of other things. You know?
Okay.
Like, she didn't just get fast. She had, like, some sort of visual implants and, like, some other weapon in her hands. Like, they took all this stuff away, and it was just, now she's fast.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty dull.
Yeah. And that chainmail shirt she was wearing, she was probably wearing something underneath it, but at one point, at least in the storyline, she doesn't, because you see her from the back putting it on. That thing had to pinch.
Well, apparently they're still having Ren fairs in 2021.
Yeah. She's like wearing an actual chainmail top.
It's coming from the Red Fair. My lady.
And while we're on her character and Keanu, did they really need to kiss? I mean, they didn't go full romantic subplot. There was a kiss and a look at the end.
That was one of my objections of the last act. When they shoehorned a romantic subplot in there.
There was just a kiss and a look. They didn't go too far, but it was just no.
Well, right. They kiss, they get interrupted, and then, of course, at the end, they look lovingly at each other, and it's just like, why did you need to do this?
Yeah. And I'll admit, at the end, I did kind of lose track of the story a little bit.
Well, right. That's kind of the problem with the last act. There's just random explosions and people like killing each other, and you have very little idea what's actually going on.
And that other computer interface, the woman who was following the one Japanese guy?
Right.
I have no idea exactly who she was or what she was supposed to be doing.
Was she Johnny's mom? Or did she put herself in as Johnny's mom?
Maybe.
In his memories.
Now, a lot of this could be the editing, because the film premiered in Japan on April 15th, 95, in a longer version, 103 minutes, that is closer to the director's cut, featuring a different score and a different ending. The version that we saw was released on May 26th of the same year. According to Gibson, the Japanese release is his and Longo's original vision. The re-release was put out to make it more mainstream, and Gibson really doesn't consider himself having written it. Like,
the version I had was like about 90.
Same here, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
96, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, yeah, I guess, they only took 10 minutes out, right?
That's true. It couldn't have been that much. Although, I mean, if you go through the deleted scenes on most movies, there's a lot less than 10 minutes usually.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently one of the things that was cut was a storyline where Jones was a heroin addict.
Okay.
Jones, well, yeah, I don't think this is going to make the rec list. Jones is a dolphin who can apparently fix Johnny. A super intelligent, heavily implanted dolphin.
I was gonna call it the elephant in the room.
Sort of.
In fact, maybe that should be the title of the episode.
Yeah, the cure-all after the doctor who was supposed to get it out of his head is killed. The big fix is to bring him to this heavily implanted super intelligent dolphin, who he interfaces with in some way, and it gets the data out of his head and broadcasts to the world. Of course, they have to broadcast it to the world. Which brings us to our, get your VCRs ready line in 2021.
My notes just say, "Oh dear God, the dolphin." I think, is this what South Park was making fun of with the manatees?
Possibly, yeah.
Family Guy.
It seems like something they would touch on.
Yeah.
And then somehow the Pharmacom building, the big bads, their building just bursts into flames.
Bursts into flame. Yep.
And then there's this nice fake with a moving corpse. You think it's his corpse coming back to life, and it's actually just the moving crew taking it out.
Well, yeah, I think it was kind of a Terminator joke.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
How much tech was he?
Mm-hmm. Oh, one last bit of trivia. The Japanese characters seen above the Internet 2021 title card at the beginning of the movie directly translate to hackneyed and cliched.
Oh no.
And Keanu's performance earned him a nomination for the Golden Raspberry for Worst Actor, but he lost to Pauly Shore for jury duty. I think that was the right choice.
I don't think I've ever seen Jury Duty.
I've seen Pauly Shore movies, and I think it was the right choice. I've never seen Jury Duty, but it's a Pauly Shore movie. You see one, you've seen them all.
I'm trying to think of the number of Pauly Shore movies I've actually seen. It was probably the first few. Encino Man.
I've seen Encino Man. And I think I've seen a bit of, what was the one with Carlo Gugino? Something about, they got married or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, that one I think I've seen. Anyway, on to sequels and remakes.
On to sequels and remakes.
No sequels or remakes.
They didn't even leave room for a sequel,
Well, there's really no room for a sequel. They get the data out of his head.
I thought that was really interesting that they just pretty much wrap it all up in a single movie.
And what about a modern remake? Do you see any potential there?
I could see that. I mean, well, yeah, because there's so much potential in this. The corporatocracy that we're on the verge of becoming.
I don't know if he does other people's projects, but Shane could do an interesting job on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a number of directors whose name isn't Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
just trying to think of somebody who can do good hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
Who did Gattaca?
What about Duncan Jones?
Ooh, oh God, yeah. How could I forget Duncan Jones? He did Warcraft.
Give him
Duncan Jones would be right for this. Yeah.
I mean, think of how weird Moon was.
Yeah, and Source Code kind of fits into a similar thing, although I have some issues with Source Code. There's some logical issues.
Put that into something like this where there's action in it. I think he'd do a really good job on it.
Oh, yeah.
But the actor,
the lead actor, yeah.
I guess anybody would be.
John Boyega. I could see John Boyega in this role perfectly.
All right. Yeah.
On to Brains?
With that. On to Brains.
Like I said, it's very nostalgic for me. I didn't love it as much as I did back in 95, but I still had a lot of fun. I'm going 3.5.
Yeah, I was damn close to recommending this until that last act. I mean, I was really happy. They crucify Rollins. I mean,
what did we see in him back in the day?
What?
What did we see in him back in the day?
He was just, an honest, cool guy.
I guess.
But yeah, I'm right with you. 3.5.
All right, and what have we learned?
Jesus really didn't like being around nails, did he? Wonder why.
And I learned that I am a bit too nostalgic for 90s cyberpunk. I mean, I think I need to watch Hackers again.
No. But, I mean, imagine if they actually had special effects for this movie. Because, I mean, the effects they have in it makes it more of a comedy than an actual movie.
Sure.
You're trapped inside a Commodore 64. Even for 95 standards, those are pretty bad effects.
Yeah. They very much reminded me of the Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, that
I
was
mean, the
pretty
clips
bad
I've seen
too,
of
wasn't
it.
it?
All right, so until next time, when we'll be reviewing Yo Tokyo Fish Attack. This is our yearly anime, as recommended by Danny Meeks. Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. You also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. In order up through Forbidden Planet, I have the science fiction double feature on there now. You also find the recommendations list. This got so close. I was really on the fence, to be honest, myself.
I was too. Yeah.
It just didn't quite make it.
I think as soon as he kissed her, I was like, no.
See, that whole ending almost bought it a half a brain and pushed it, but then I think it was the romantic subplot that killed it.
And that was the other thing. The ending, it was nice that they finished it.
Mm-hmm.
They did it self-contained, but it was way too happy an ending too.
Yeah.
I'm like, what kind of dystopian nightmare are you talking about?
Yeah, I think it would have been way more poetic if he sacrificed himself for the cure.
Something. Or if it just didn't go through at all, or,
I would have liked to have seen the cure get out, but maybe kill Johnny in the process.
Or Johnny survives and the cure doesn't get out. I mean...
Maybe.
Either way, something bad had to have happened. Right. Instead of
it was just a little too happy.
Perfect. Yeah. I saved the world and got the girl. It was kind of like, what the fuck is this?
Of course, you can email us zombietakeout@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-CTO1 or for the alphanumerically challenged.
You can insert yourself.
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you'll always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
More than adequate.
I have notes about the 90s syndicated sci-fi series, so...